Great to see you here tonight. I got a chance to meet some of you from Sumter, South Carolina, Camden, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and from around Jersey. There you go. But we're delighted that you're here tonight. I'm John Hannon, founding director of the Brooke T. Smith Launchpad. And let me just give you a couple tidbits on what we do here. I work for the president. The Brooke T. Smith Launchpad is based in the president's office. We're responsible for all things entrepreneurship and innovation. Many of you are taking entrepreneurship classes right now. I taught 600 kids a year for 8 years here prior to being brought into the president's office. And so he doesn't want me teaching now because we got too much to do here. But so how many people is it the first time here in Launchpad? I've seen some of you here before, but welcome. We do a lot of programming here. As I mentioned, I report into the president, and that's Max Allen. We always give a shout out to Max. He's the chief of staff, senior vice president to Jim Clements, and I work underneath him directly. Tonight, we're fortunate. Well, let me just say, before you leave, we have a poster over there with a bunch of different events. Anybody in finance majors? Nobody here is finance major? Okay. So November 7th, we have an amazing event with 35 alumni and parents who are involved in venture capital, private equity, family offices, corporate venture capital, angel investing, and it's a tremendous network that you should take advantage of and come and meet people. But we have a lot of different events, and we have some handouts there, so learn more. Don't wait until your senior year, because a lot of people go, I didn't know about this place, and I really wish I had done more. We've only been open for a year and a half, so that's a little bit of an excuse for you. But you know, they say I should have done a lot more here. So that being said, I want to introduce several of our interns. Patty's back there. She's going to be taking some pictures. Molly's back there. She checked you in. Charlotte's doing our live Zoom. We're grateful for them. We do have internships. Liam is our digital media intern. Michelle is all the way in the back. She's the rock of this place, and Susan's back there too. So that's a little bit of background. Maggie is the person responsible for this event tonight. She's been our point person on the College of the Week. So we're delighted to have a couple of very special guests with us, who I'll introduce in a second. But I want to put a bug in your ear now. And Maggie, we're going to have the companies come up and introduce themselves too. But after this talk, which is about 45 minutes or so, we would strongly encourage all of you to just go back and say hello to the various companies and organizations that are here. They're offering internships, they're offering full-time jobs, some of them. And so put yourself out there a little bit. It's a very, very non-threatening environment. It's a very casual environment. You know, you go over to Little John, you got a suit and tie on, and you got a handful of resumes, and you go to talk to people, but make yourself available here. Take a couple minutes. We have pizza afterwards too. So next up, I'm going to introduce Jimmy Mullinex. He is in charge of Veterans Affairs here at Clemson. So most colleges around the country will have a veterans office that assists people coming back to school. Is anyone in here? I mean, we have some undergraduates in finance in management we were talking about. But do we have any people who are familiar with Jimmy and his office? What they do? A couple people? Okay, good. They do great work, just helping people transition back into civilian life, get going at school. And many of them are a little bit older, so there's different transitions. Some have families, but they're just an amazing group of people over there, him and his staff. So we'll turn it over to him, and he's going to take a few minutes, make you aware of this, and then we'll hear from our guest speaker, who's a very accomplished businessman and veteran.
Thank you, Dr. Hannon. Appreciate that. So as he says, I'm Jimmy Mullinex. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel, Clemson graduate. I've been back in Clemson about 13 years now, and held a few different jobs. But in my current role as Executive Director of Military Affairs, I think most of y'all were not connected with the military, but let me ask that question a little bit differently than what Dr. Hannon. How many of y'all are a child spouse of a veteran? Anybody? Children? All right. So we got a few more. Okay, so as Executive Director of Military Affairs, I'm in a new role that basically is advocating for any of our military-connected students, which if you're a military child, a military spouse, a currently serving service member, or a veteran, then we're there to support and help you on your Clemson journey, right? And we also advocate and support our ROTC cadets that are contracted, because if they're contracted, they're committed to go in the military when they graduate. And so this logo up here is the Military and Veteran Engagement Office, is the direct office that falls underneath me that is providing that direct support to you as a student if you're military connected. So you might say, well, what does that matter to me if I'm not military connected? Because I guarantee you, you know somebody that is military connected, right? So I'm going to ask y'all a question just to see if anybody might have a clue. What percentage of our student body population of about 29,000 are military connected students? Somebody give me a number. What do you think's the percentage? 1%, a little higher than that. Somebody else, 5%. That was pretty good a couple of years ago, but we're at right 9.2% right now, right? So we have over 2,600 students that fall in those categories of military connected, and right over 500 that are military veterans and or service members. Most of you might not realize, but the services send members to different universities to get degrees. And then we also have our National Guard and Reserve that are serving, and they're actively serving, but they're coming to school as well. So it's just a resource. So you can be educated on that as part of this College of the Week, our military affairs and veterans, right? It's to promote and support those students here at Clemson and their efforts. So now you can help promote and support them. One way you can do that is if you run across somebody and they have whatever and they're military connected, ask them if you've gone to Hendricks to the Military and Veteran Engagement Office, right? Engage with them and get them connected. Because really some of our students are like this gentleman that says he's a senior, and that's when we connect with them, right? They're getting ready to go out the door, but there's all kind of resources that we can provide to them, other programming, partnership here with the Launchpad. We're doing this event, but we do our own events that promote, finance, wellness, and a variety of other events. I'm really thankful for Dr. Hannon, Launchpad, and for putting this on the second year that they've done this. And so we appreciate their efforts in that. So really my main goal, other than informing y'all about our offices so you're a little bit more educated, I got two other things I'm going to discuss, right? One is I'm a Clemson graduate. I'm a veteran of the United States Army, and Clemson is a military school and founded as a military school, right? Y'all know that? Everybody knows that, right? So I'm going to ask another question. How many of y'all have been to the Scroll of Honor Memorial across from Memorial Stadium? Anybody ever walked through the Scroll of Honor? Okay, so I got a challenge for you, right? November 17th to the 22nd is Military Appreciation Week, and it's our ending with our Military Appreciation football game. So you can pull out your phone now or later, but type in Clemson Military Appreciation Week 2025, right? And it will pop up the website. And I challenge you to do one thing that week to learn something about our Clemson military heritage. Some of your fellow students will be leading tours at the Scroll of Honor Memorial and Memorial Park, and they will give you a little bit of insight into the 498 men that have died in service to our nation. They will also just enlighten you about some other Clemson military history. So learn what makes this university all that it is, and the military is one component of that. And we've all heard a saying that there's something in these hills. Well, in my mind, part of that something is our military founding, because if we weren't founded as a military school, we'd be like all the other universities out there that could say, well, there's something in these hills. But I think that something is our founding as a military school, right? And it's still bred in us today. And so I'm honored tonight to be able to introduce a fellow Clemson alum. He received his MBA from Clemson back in 2022. But he's also a fellow veteran. And so I'm honored to be able to introduce tonight Jack Sterling, who received a bachelor in history from Rhodes College. And then he decided to go off, I don't know why, because I'm Army, but he decided to go off into the Navy and serve our country. Unlike me, I was a logistics officer, so I pretty much did things kind of away from the enemy or away from other things. I think Jack probably was in the thick of things with some of his career and what he's done, and has some great experiences, and maybe he'll be able to share some of that as he served I think almost 9 years in the U.S. Navy and in the SEAL teams, Navy SEALs. But he got out of the Navy, as most of us do. We have to get out at some point. Even if you stay until you're 60, you still got to get out. And he's now started CloudHound Cyber and Fiber. And Jack's happily married. He's got 3 kids. As you can see here, he's got a service dog named Echo. And so we're just glad that we partnered with Jack through an organization called Upstate Warrior Solution that supports our veterans and first responders in the upstate. And so Jack works with them as their entrepreneurial lead project officer to help veterans, right, that want to do something entrepreneurial, start their own business, help them be successful in doing that. And so Jack, we're glad you're here tonight and look forward to hearing from you. So give a round of applause to Jack Sterling.
Good evening, everybody. Clemson family. It's good to see so many of you guys here. I'm trying to figure out where to put my dog while I talk. Echo, come here. I keep her bribed throughout the speech. So they said 45 minutes. I don't think it'll take that long. I like to be concise if at all possible. I wrote this speech thinking that you guys are going to be mostly veterans. So there might be some jokes that are a little bit off. We'll read and react to that. So you guys could have been anywhere. You could have been studying, pretending to study, doing whatever it is that college kids are doing these days, but you chose to be here to learn about the veteran community, the entrepreneur space, and how veterans can have an impact in entrepreneurship. So when I was asked to come speak to you guys, I was overwhelmed. I was a little bit in awe. I've never done a keynote speech before, so I had this opportunity to come talk to you guys. And so I started thinking about, what do I want to convey? You know, what are the different eras of being a veteran? You start off, you're a recruit, you're a new guy, you're a warrior, you're a leader, and then you're a veteran. When you hang it all up, you kind of go on to become a veteran. The hardest part about that whole journey, believe it or not, is that last part. How do you reinvent yourself after you've served? For me, the hardest mission wasn't surviving Hell Week. It wasn't combat overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq. It was coming home, figuring out, what now? How do I take what I've done, take what I've learned, and apply it in a different environment? And that's still ongoing today. You know, who was I without the rank, the rigor, the schedule, the mission, and somebody, you know, occasionally throwing hand grenades at me to keep me motivated? So that's what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. What that journey was like from deciding to join the military, what that journey was joining the military, going overseas. That's it. And then coming home and finding out what's next. So growing up, I was always involved in team sports. I grew up playing basketball, loved the team environment, you know, realized early on you could do more as a team than you could by yourself. And that stuck with me to this day. I studied history. I like to read, write, and argue. And so that made, you know, I'll go be a lawyer, right? That was about the most I'd ever thought about what I was going to do with my life. And I took an internship at a legal office here in Greenville to dispel me of that pretty quickly. It took about 2 minutes of sitting in an office behind a desk in a cubicle and punching numbers into a screen. And it's like, I don't care what I'm doing here, how much they're paying me. This is not it. And so you could say at 18, I had a midlife crisis, decided that what I thought I was going to do with my life was a complete wrong path. And it wasn't even close, right? It was the wrong direction. And so, you know, I came across, this was 2005. So the internet was, you know, relatively new. And I came across this thing called the SEAL Challenge contract. And it was just a gauntlet they laid down to say, if you're interested in what we're talking about, you think you can come do this, you like doing hard things with great people in austere environments, then come give us a try. I said, okay, bet. So that's what I did. I was hooked. And so for 3 years, I went back to school, finished my degree in history. At the time when I started, I couldn't do 10 push-ups in a row or run a mile without stopping, and I couldn't do a single pull-up. So it took a lot of training to get to where I wanted to go. But I trained, I ran, I swam, I fought, and really just kind of learned the path of the discipline. And when all my friends were graduating in 2008 into one of the worst job markets in a generation, I knew where I was going to go. I had job security. The Navy was taking anyone that would walk through their doors. And so I walked in after graduation, said, hey, I want to be a SEAL. They said, take these tests, do these push-ups and stuff, and we'll give you a shot. And so a few months later, I was in boot camp and then off to San Diego to give it a shot in BUD/S. So people assume I was motivated by thrill seeking or patriotism. You know, I was in high school when 9/11 happened. Certainly it was formative, but it was definitely not what was driving me to make that decision. I wanted to do something that only I could do by myself. Nobody could help me, no matter family or money or connections could pull strings and make that happen. It was only me. I was not really motivated by that. So I was really just didn't want to quit, because making that phone call to tell my dad and other people that cared about me that I'd quit, I just couldn't imagine doing that. So I was stubborn to the end and made it through basically on that alone. You know, but like most young soldiers and sailors, I joined looking for belonging, for structure, looking for a challenge. And most of all, I was looking for that team environment, right? By myself, I'm mid, right? I'm okay. But part of a team, it really brings the best out of me. And so I knew that, and I knew that going somewhere with a high team quotient would be good for me. There's a couple lessons I learned that I'd like to share. So these are things that I've taken both through the MBA program here and on my business journey. Discipline creates freedom. Doing the hard things when no one's watching is what separates winners from the rest. That's getting up early, getting the extra reps in, making those extra phone calls if you're a salesperson. Whatever that looks like in your life, you know, doing the thing, doing the hard thing, especially when no one's watching. It's really when things makes a difference. Pressure reveals character. Without adversity, you're never going to find out who you truly are. So don't be afraid of the hard thing. Go out and seek it out. And then lastly, teamwork beats talent every time. Whether in sports, business, or combat, it's the team that carries the day. And that's still something I truly believe in. So these lessons stuck. They became the foundations for how I lead, for how I build teams, and for how I run my business, and how I help other veterans do the same. So after completing BUD/S, I served as a SEAL at SEAL Team 1 in San Diego from 2009 to 2015. I was there from 2009 to 2015. I did 2 deployments, Philippines and then Afghanistan. And then my last 3 years, I was an instructor teaching other SEALs what I'd learned. Best job I ever had. So never a dull moment. One day you're jumping out of an airplane, chasing after a boat you just threw out the back. Next day you're driving tactical vehicles over a mountain range. Day after that, you're dropping bombs in the desert. It's always something different, always new, varied, always challenging, but always with your team. My main role was as what's called a JTAC, Joint Terminal Attack Controller. So I was responsible for coordinating the airstrikes and aircraft assets overhead in close proximity to friendlies and to civilians, which is a pretty stressful job, but I loved it. I had 2 radios, 1 for each ear, chaos everywhere, and I had the most amount of information of anybody on the battlefield. So I knew more than the guys in the sky, more than the guys on the ground. I knew both pictures and was responsible for keeping everybody abreast of what was going on everywhere. And then when it came time to drop a bomb, I was the guy. It was intoxicating. I was in love with it. I loved teaching other guys how to do it. And the most rewarding part of that whole thing was not the doing of it, but it was coming home as an instructor and being able to teach the next wave of guys going to do it and having them come back and tell me, hey, the scenarios you put us through, the training you conducted, it kept us alive. We brought everybody home. We did our jobs because you're training. So that was some of the most rewarding stuff I've ever been a part of. So after 2 combat deployments and 9 years, I decided to hang it up. I had my second child at that point, now I have 3. And you really can't be a good SEAL and a good dad. You really have to pick one. I didn't really want to not pick my kids. So decided to get out at 9 after some deep conversations with my wife. She's from Portland, Oregon, so we had to figure out where we were going to go. Ultimately settled on Greenville, South Carolina, and Clemson's MBA building downtown Greenville was a big selling point. I didn't have to commute all the way out here to go to school. I could do it right in my own backyard. And so we did that, started a business actually a few months before Clemson. So I kind of jumped into business before the business school started, which was an interesting kind of parallel experience of doing both. So I didn't really know I wanted to start my own business when I got out, but I did know I didn't want to work for somebody else. I'd worked for the largest bureaucracy on the planet, and going to work for someone else, not the SEAL teams, was really pretty unappealing. So I wanted to give it a try to work for myself. I see Dan's here nodding his head. So like John mentioned, CloudHound is a independent broker of technology services. We're a ScanSource partner. I didn't know any of that was when I got out. I kind of learned as I went, but one of the themes that I've seen over and over again, both in my own journey in business and through all the countless veterans that I've interviewed and worked with, is that entrepreneurship is about doing the thing even if you don't know what you're doing. It's about saying, hey, this is going to be hard. I might fail. okay, I'm still going to do it, right? It's not letting that fear knuckle you under. So, why did I choose to go in that path? I was a technology guy in my platoon, right? Anything with a power supply, on-off switch, that was in my purview. I was responsible for keeping even people's personal cell phones and iPads and stuff they would bring on deployment. It's like, hey, Jack, my phone's not working. Can you fix it? I was like, sure. I have no idea how your phone works, but I'll try and figure it out. And so today, that's what I do for business leaders. I try and help them figure out what technology can keep their business connected and secured as they operate, or wherever they operate on the planet. And so same mentality, same modality, different arena. So that's what Cloudhound's modeled after is, my military experience, but applied in the private sector. So I have a confession to make to you guys. I have to come clean a little bit. I grew up in a Gamecock family, so this is a little bit of enemy territory for me. And I may or may not have had an uncle disown me for going to school at Clemson. This is where I pause for booze. No booze. You guys are a nice audience. I'm used to getting stuff thrown at me. So, rivalry aside, being a Clemson MBA student was an incredible experience. From the faculty to the students, sitting beside me in class, getting classes canceled to have everybody go watch the football game. Those were interesting experiences for me. Hold mic closer. Good call in the back. Thank you. So you could tell that Clemson is a military college because my service was recognized. Everybody appreciated what I had done and went out of their way to make sure I felt like I was in home and accommodated. So it really was that DNA showing through. So right now the world's changing at warp speed, right? You guys read about AI, what that's doing to the jobs market. You always read about cybersecurity issues, breaches, companies getting popped with ransomware, supply chains and disruption. You guys all lived through COVID, so you know what that did to our economy, to our society. But there's one truth that maintains a constant, and that's that business rewards adaptability. So as veterans, we speak that language, right? We know adaptability. On every SEAL mission, we expected that plan A is going to fail, right? You're going to go out there with plan A, it's going to fail. What's plan B? What's plan C? What's plan D? And maybe even we're just playing pickup basketball, read and react. As the saying goes, plans are worthless, but planning is priceless. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So, and again, in my business experience, I found that to be true time and again. You might have a business plan that looks great on paper, but as soon as you go to market, something changes, market changes, right? The demand changes. You got to adapt or die. After 2 years of struggling with my business, trying to sell anything to anyone, I was selling every technology service ScanSearch offers to anyone on the planet who would talk to me. And that didn't work very well, believe it or not. And so I kind of stumbled backward into my first pivot. So I was sitting in a local technology firm. They had some extra desk space. They thought having a SEAL in there would be good for their people, the Citadel guys, so that they appreciated that. And I was just listening to these guys, these account managers, talk, kind of in a hate circle about what they didn't like about Spectrum. They kind of hang up the phone, said a few colorful words about Spectrum. And I said, one of them said something about Spectrum being terrible and untrustworthy. And I was like, well, that's interesting. You could just buy Spectrum from me instead. The sales guy's the one who's untrustworthy. And so that's what he did. It was a pivot to how I prospected. I wasn't just prospecting for customers. I was prospecting for referral partners. One of these guys would know what I bring to the table and trust me. That's a force multiplier, right? Every one of their customers is now a possible customer for me. And so as an army of one, that makes my job a lot easier. I don't have to call every single business under the sun, ask them what their internet situation was like. I could say, hey, PTG, who do you have in your book of business that needs internet right now? And I said, these guys. Got it. Done deal. So that was my first big pivot, and reacting to what the market was telling me shifted my entire business model, right? It changed the way I prospect, changed the way I went to market. Lesson learned, entrepreneurship is just like combat. Plans fall apart, adapt or die. Fast forward a few years, I'm running my business, minding my own business, and Charlie Hall, president and founder of Upstate Warrior Solutions, himself a Marine, gave me a call out of the blue, said, hey, Jack, got an opportunity I want to discuss with you. We've got a new grant. We want to open an entrepreneur program under our roofs. We have someone that can cover employment. So if you're looking for a job as a veteran, we got you covered, but we have nobody to cover entrepreneurship. We have all these veterans coming through our door saying they want to start a business or they have a business, they need help. And no one in our building can help them. So we think you're that guy. And so little bit of back and forth, figured out what, how we were going to skin that. But at the end of the day, agreed to do both, right? I still run CloudHound, and I started this program at Upstate Warriors, catering to veterans and first responders who want to be entrepreneurs or already are. And it's not that I'm some genius business person. It's not that I'm on Shark Tank telling people this is a good idea or a bad idea, but just having someone to talk to about what you're trying to do, talk through the problems. That's Dan or any other veteran to tell you, that's just part and parcel of being in the military. You walk into your job, you've got 20 people or more you can talk to about what's going on. Hey, here's the challenge for the day. What are we going to do about it? When you're an entrepreneur or just an average veteran out, you don't have that. You're kind of alone in the woods, never really sure which way to go, who to talk to, how to solve these problems that used to seem pretty solvable. Now they all seem insurmountable. So, and there's not a lack of resources for us either. There's so many organizations like Clemson and others that are here for veterans, and we often just don't know where to go or how to find those resources or which resources are appropriate at this stage in my business career, or how to unpack and utilize those resources. That's really the secret sauce. It's not, hey, we've got some magic trove of resources you didn't know about. It's like, you don't want to waste your time going to the wrong thing or pitching in a competition that you have no business pitching in, or applying for funds that you don't qualify for. Those are things that waste your time and really take the wind out of your sails. And so we help folks not just talk through what they're trying to do, but also connect with the right resources at the right time. So I've been happily doing that for about 3.5 years. I've met an incredible mix of veterans, first responders, and their family members, right? That's our purview here in the upstate. And while they all have different stories and they're all kind of their own unique snowflake about what they're trying to do in the business world, there are a couple of themes that I've found that have emerged from that veteran population. One is that we're almost to a T, and Dan, you're an exception because you were an officer, but most of our clients are enlisted folk, and we're excellent doers, right? We're really good elite doers of the task, right? So my job was an elite doer of the task of coordinating airstrikes, right? So my job was, as cool as it was, I was still, taking orders and doing someone else's job, right? Doing someone else's work. When you get out, you have to do all the things. You have to be the doer. You have to be the manager. You also have to be the owner of the business. And all three of those things are a different mindset, different skill set. So, take a McDonald's, for example. You need a McDonald's, you need people to flip burgers and drop fries, take orders, clean up, do all that stuff, take drive through, whatever. You also need a manager, make sure everyone's showing up and you got people are staffed and they're dressed appropriately and you're putting out customer problems and stuff like that. Then you should have an owner whose job is not to do any of that stuff. His job is not even in the building. The owner's job is to, negotiate a better rate with a bank or facilitate a new location opening up or work on, a key strategic partnership or something like that. That's not stuff that, those are different skill sets. The elite burger flipper and the owner have just a different experience, different background. And so we have a lot of elite doers come through our doors who may be a landscaper or they're a handyman or they're an IT person, but they are not an owner. And so we have to help them kind of broaden their mind out a little bit to figure out what does it look like to own my business. And a lot of folks are, hey, I've been doing landscaping for 10 years by myself and I'm burnt out and I can't figure out how to expand my business past me. That's a pretty common theme. So figuring out how do you actually manage and own your business versus just being stuck in this treadmill that you built for yourself. There's a couple of key tasks. And again, my friend Dan here being in the front row, I'm gonna keep picking on him, but we don't ever raise money in the military, right? No one ever said, hey, Jack, you're going to Afghanistan to fight the Taliban, go raise some money to pay for it. Didn't happen, right? You guys footed that bill already, so we don't have to have that conversation. When you come time to starting a business and growing it, you're going to need capital at some point, and we don't know what to do or where to ask. And there's this general idea that there's a Scrooge McDuck style pot of money out there for veterans to go just scoop some money out and go do things. And that doesn't exist, right? There's grants, there's funds, there's all types of opportunity to get the money, but the devil's in the details. And so helping people find out how to fund their business, and then how to market themselves, how to market their business, coming up with a plan to tell people about what they're doing and attract the right type of people to their business to be customers. That's an art form that, again, veterans don't do unless you're public affairs. You're either neutral on marketing or you're explicitly told not to, right? SEALs or marketing is a 4-letter word. We don't advertise the nature of our work or seek recognition for what we do. It's in our creed to not market ourselves. We are anti-marketing for good reason. So when it comes out time to get out and start a business and tell everybody about it, that feels kind of icky. And maybe it just doesn't occur to you very much to tell people about, hey, what am I doing? Right? I have to remind myself to take pictures of things that I do so I can send it to our marketing department. Sounds pretty straightforward, but you'd be surprised. And most importantly, tribe is everything, right? Like I said, when you're in the military, you have this tribe. You got your 20 or so people that are everything to you, right? They're your entire world. You keep them alive. They keep you alive. That's it. When you get out, you're solo, right? You're a sole operator, which feels weird. Why I have Echo? She's my number 2. You don't go anywhere in the SEAL teams by yourself. Echo's my number 2. I go everywhere with her. And so figuring out who your tribe is when you get out, if you're going to start a business, you need a tribe of people. You need a good banker. You need multiple mentors. You need, everything under the sun, but you've got to figure out who those people are, map them out, and then lean on them. And again, if you want to pick Dan's brain after we're done talking here, he's doing this right now. He's building a tribe of people to help make his grand vision reality, because it's not going to happen by yourself, right? You couldn't just do this by yourself. So figuring out who that is part and parcel. So to close this out, I told you I'd give you a little bit of time back in your day. I've got a couple of final lessons and thoughts that I wanted to share just as we close out here. So first, mission first, tribe always, right? The mission matters. You got to have that mission in mind, but your people make it happen, right? Without your people, you got no business. And so take care of your people and they'll move mountains for you. Adapt and overcome. Plans fail, markets shift. Every failure is just feedback. Adaptability beats perfection every time. Own it. There's no commander to call or when things go sideways. Again, you guys aren't a military audience, so this one doesn't make a lot of sense. But you own it, good or bad. That just means ownership is everything. It sets you free. Start before you're ready. Waiting on perfect conditions is just procrastination dressed up as planning. I'm bad at this, guys. ChatGPT is deadly. You can sit there and plan for days and do nothing. So go for it, right? When you got an idea, you should feel uncomfortable and nervous starting because you don't know what you're doing. That's how it's supposed to be. Serve like you served. That's not really relevant here, but balance equals sustainability. Burnout helps nobody. So we have this idea, this ethos in the United States that we just work, and that's virtuous. And there is truth to that. But if you are working so much to where you can't take care of yourself, to where you're isolating yourself from friends and family, you're probably not going to be able to sustain that level of work for very long, and you're going to isolate yourself from the people that take care of you. So figure out what recharges your batteries, whether it's, for me, I like to get outside, I like to play with my kids, walk the dog, go play Frisbee. The things that I do that keep me normal are vital to the business. So find that and do that. Excellence is how you show up. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. Whether you're leading a company or doing the dishes, do it well, right? And lastly, your network is your net worth. So it's not how much money you have in the bank or what you own, but it's who you can call on, who you can trust. The veteran community proves this daily. We knew that in the SEAL teams. It's less common to have a really nice, tight network here on the outside. So Clemson provides a great network for you guys. When you graduate, lean on it, right? Lean on your Clemson alum and classmates. So in closing, we've survived hostile enemies, impossible timelines, and scarier people yelling at us before sunrise. So whatever's coming next on the business front, we shouldn't be scared of it. With that, Clemson family, I'm going to open up for questions. You guys have anything for me? Fire away.
Come up with your business name.
I had this cool service dog and Cloud Hound. We're doing stuff in the cloud. We've got a hound. The reality was I didn't have her at that time. The idea was we're going to help you hound down the solutions, services, technologies you need for your business, right? So be internet, security, whatever. So now it's nice that we have a mascot. It makes a little more sense, but that was not the origin.
What would you maybe do differently or emphasize to get you ready for where you are now?
Procrastinate less. I think I was very much fond of waiting till the last minute and doing all-nighters and stuff like that, cramming for exams. And that's just maybe prepared me for buds a little bit, but that sucked and probably got less out of school because of it. And then, like I said, the network being your net worth, you guys might not realize it, but the people you're sitting in class with right now in 10, 20 years, they're going to be it. They're going to be the movers and the shakers and the pillars of the community and the leaders that you might not realize now But the people you're going to frat parties with, the people you're hanging out with, you're doing stuff after school, your roommates, they're going to be real legit adults here in the next 10 to 15, 20 years. And they're going to have jobs. I've got a guy who's, head of like government relations for Facebook, right? College roommate. He was not a guy that I thought would be, a climber in that way at the time. So people are going to do stuff that you probably don't expect. And so just remember the people you're in class with now and try and stay in touch and lean on that network as much as you can. To be fully honest, the government pays us to go back to school, right? The GI Bill funds us to go back to school. They give you a housing allowance. And so some of it was a buffer to get out and figure out what I wanted to do, to kind of connect with people that were not in the military, kind of get away from when you're around military people all day, every day, there's just a certain way of living, certain way of being that it's like you're almost like it's like somewhat stifling, right? You have to be that way, locked in all the time. It's kind of like being on a sports team in a locker room kind of thing. So coming out, I wanted to be around civilians and learn and from my peers who didn't go through what I went through. That was a big part of it. I thought at that time I wanted to be a computer programmer. And so turns out I'm like the least apt for computer programming on the planet. So I didn't do that, but that's a great question. So if you guys didn't hear that, what's the key to kind of broadening your mind from just being that elite doer working in the business to working on the business as an owner? If I had solved that for myself, I'd have a much better answer. Part of it is, you might love the job, right? If you're a woodworker and you like making stuff with your hands, like you don't want to do all the other stuff. So there's a couple ways I've seen it approached. I've seen a guy who he's the artisan. He hired a business manager and she took ownership of the business, 51%, and she ran it as the president. And he loved it because all he had to do was do the work. That's all he ever wanted to do. For me, it's really about blocking time and being intentional about what type of work I do when. So if my doer stuff is making, calls to prospects and trying to, move deals down the pipeline, I block that off. I have 2-hour blocks throughout the week where I do prospecting time. And then there's, management. How do I manage myself, right? I go setting goals. I got to set goals. If I don't, then no one else is going to, and the business won't go anywhere. How do I check in with myself? Am I doing the things that I need to do to make those goals happen? So, beginning of the week, here's what I want to accomplish. End of the week, did I do the things that I said I was going to do? And it doesn't have to be anything complicated or complex. It really can just be, writing down one goal for the week and then checking that box when it gets checked and doing that weekly, and you make progress that way. And then the owner mentality is, you don't have to be a 9-to-5 worker bee. And I think that's one of the most important things is that seems like the safe path for a lot of people, to go punch a clock for somebody, make someone else's entrepreneurial dream come true. And the only thing that I really think prevents people from being their own boss a lot of the time is fear. It should be, right? It's scary out there. You're out there without a net. People think there's job security in being a 9-to-5 W-2 employee, less and less so. Right? You might not have that job. That might get downsized, or AI might take your job, or company might go out of business because of a ransomware. I mean, you never know what's going to come along. So I think acknowledging that there's things to be afraid of on both sides of employment or entrepreneurship is kind of how I look at it. It's like I could go work for somebody else. I have no upside, right? I'm going to make my paycheck and salary, and that's going to be kind of it. So I look at my entrepreneurial endeavors as that's my long play upside, right? If I don't have that, then I'm kind of guaranteeing myself kind of a low outcome for life. And so kind of a meandering answer to your question. There is no magic bullet to kind of make yourself do that stuff. But I think you have to imagine it first. What does it look like for me to own this business, right? What would I be doing if this were true? It's funny, I asked a lot of folks, everybody I talked to actually for the entrepreneur program, one of my interview questions that I do everybody on our baseline interview is, what does success look like for you? Today is the first day of your business, and a year from now, what would have to be true for you to say that was a good year? And virtually none of the people I talked to, veterans or otherwise, have thought about that, right? So it's thinking about what would it look like for me to own this business and for it to be successful. I haven't envisioned it. So typically, unless you imagine and envision something and then write it down, it's not going to happen, right? You might accidentally stumble into something, but it's not going to just happen on its own. You have to intentionally think, what does that look like on a, 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 kind of a lived experience, day-to-day thing. I think one of the most impactful lessons that I've learned was I wanted to go to work for a couple of Silicon Valley startups when I first got out. That was my, I was kind of infatuated with those companies and what they represented, and the unicorn status of a $1 billion startup was just like, it's alluring. I didn't get the job. I got blown out for some interviews and ended up not getting an offer. It would have been miserable for me and my young family to go move to San Jose, California, and commute 2 hours a day on on the BART or whatever, to go live under a desk for 16 hours a day making phone calls to people that want to know where their freight was. Like, that was going to be my entire life, and my wife and kids are going to be in a 1-bedroom apartment 2 hours away. And so that was kind of my ego chasing something to replace the Seal Trident, and not really thinking about what I wanted to do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, lived experience. And so thinking about where I wanted to be in the world, what do I want to do on a day-to-day basis? What is my priority, right? And that is being there for my kids when we wake up in the morning, doing the morning routine, getting them to school, working while they're at school. And then when school's done, I'm there for them, right? That was my number one priority. And so everything I did after that was use that as kind of a North Star, right? My business, right? I'm not going to chase stuff that takes me to Taiwan or Costa Rica or wherever else in the world, even to Colombia, right? I try and kind of hunt in my own backyard. And so when I do have business here, it's local. I can just go down the street and be back home for dinner. Same thing with the Upstate Warriors Entrepreneur Program they're a mile from my house. I get to stay connected to the veteran community. I get to work in their incredible building and be around all the people that do great stuff for other parts of Upstate Warriors. And we cover the whole person in one place. It's not just entrepreneurship. Anybody that we serve can come in and get anything from a cup of coffee to a connection to a banker, to help getting their teeth fixed, to, hey, my house has got black mold. We can just help the whole person for whatever they need, come through the doors, we got you. And that's a pretty cool thing to be able to do. And so that North Star of where you want to be, and that you have agency to actually impact that is really the thing that I think kind of sets entrepreneurs apart, is they act on that versus kind of pretending it's not there, and they don't really have that autonomy, and they have to go work for somebody else and do what they say, right? So an owner's mentality is one of the hardest things to attain or to kind of foster, but that's really what it takes to be successful. Is that if you don't do that, if you don't set those things out there for yourself, no one else is going to. And we kind of are, whether it's in school or in the military or whatever, other people are telling you what to do, right? Where to be, what to wear, here's the curriculum, here's your uniform, all that stuff. And when you get out of that environment, you kind of find yourself looking for other things to fill that void of someone telling me what to do, right? Because that's safe. When you're the boss, it's scary. One of my favorite sayings, we can, I don't know if you guys are trying to wrap up or not, but it's that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. So if you're nervous, if you feel scared, you're anxious about what's coming next, whether it's starting a business or whatever, you should be, right? That's freedom. You get to make the decisions about what you do on a day-to-day basis. No one's going to tell you what to do, right? You could be incarcerated for 23 hours a day. You got nothing to worry about, right? You got no worries. You know what you're doing tomorrow. So I think that whenever I feel nervous about stuff, which is often, right? I kind of joke sometimes. I feel the same way about making a new prospecting phone call as I did about jumping out of an airplane, right? I feel about the same way physically. It's kind of nerve-wracking, right? Might get a no. But that's a good thing, right? That nervousness, that fear, that energy is what propels you to do things that mean stuff. That's a great question. So for folks that didn't hear, what can the community do for veterans coming back to kind of help reintegrate into society? People always say thank you for your service, which I think I appreciate. What I would ask was take it a step further. Ask a question. I think people always tell me, like, we assume like, hey, everything you did must have been classified, or you don't want to talk about it because it was traumatic or whatever. And that could not be further from the truth. I mean, 2% of what I did in the military was classified, maybe. That's a random number that I made up, but it's mostly not. So, happy to talk about it. And I think one of the more cathartic things to do is to talk about it, is to share those experiences that 99.9% of people don't even know about. Don't even know these things happen. My last time overseas was watching the city of Mosul get retaken from ISIS from, about 50 TV screens. And it was one of the most hellacious things I've ever seen. I mean, it was like watching World War III in a soda straw. And so, not that I'm trying to like traumatize you guys and share my trauma with you, but at the same time, understanding what we're doing around the world, understanding what the people that, you read about are actually doing on a day-to-day basis, what that experience was like, what it was like for our families. Just taking a little bit more time to get to understand who we are and know that we're not, not Superman, right? I'm a pretty average dude. I just liked being wet and sandy, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, just ask questions and say, I'm not saying don't say thank you for your service. That's great. Follow-up question, right? Just go a little bit deeper than thank you for your service. And, that's what I would ask is just when you do come across a veteran, ask them questions. What was it like for you, right? What was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part, right? I'm happy to talk about those things. Those are most people never ask me those questions. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you so much, Jack. We're going to give the floor to the companies that are here with us today so they can talk to you a little bit of what they do, what they're offering, and so you can then talk to them in the back. Thank you, everybody, the people that is on Zoom, our wonderful interns, they made this possible. I'm just here supporting. They're the stars. And thank you, everybody.
Again, thank you for coming. Does anyone here have a brother or sister serving in the military currently or did previously? Okay. Well, for those who aren't as familiar, you've probably all heard of Navy SEALs, absolute elite force in the United States, 60-week program. I think I'm getting most of this right, and Jack will correct me, but 80% attrition rate. So has anyone seen the videos of Hell Week and on the beaches in San Diego and stuff like that? So it's difficult for some of us to try to comprehend that. I mean, we've been through tough stuff, but not like that. And so one of my questions to Jack later will be at a different time, how can we put ourselves out there to, in some minor way, build upon the confidence that comes from exposing yourself to different things. So you guys are here tonight. Some of you are here, to fulfill a class requirement, but hopefully this has been inspiring to you and you've gained a few new insights, a few new takeaways. And we do appreciate your service. And as Jimmy alluded to previously, we want to do whatever we can. I think it'd be a shame. I've walked through the park that is across from Memorial Stadium. I've been to a couple ceremonies there, but if you left Clemson with not ever walked around there and read the names of the people, it would be your loss. So I encourage you to do that and some of the other things that he mentioned. So there's companies here tonight to talk to. There's a book called A Curious Mind by a film producer. I've done film producing, Brian Grazer, but be curious. That's, you're a senior, time's winding down. You might be inclined to, just hang with your buds, but get out there, take a bite out of, everything you can here at Clemson over your remaining time. And even coming here tonight, hopefully you'll come back in 5 years, maybe you start a company and we'll have you up here speaking, So be curious. That's super important in life. Do a study abroad, do lots of different things, take a job in a different part of the country, all that kind of stuff. But be curious tonight and just go around to these tables, please, and just introduce yourself. We have pizza afterwards too, Maggie's going to talk about, but I can get up here and say, oh, you really should go back and talk to those companies. But we changed this up within the last couple of College of the Week. We get the people up here and you can see how relatable they are. And, maybe there's something in your spirit, your brain, your soul that motivates you to go back and talk to one of these people. So we're looking forward to meeting you because you were referenced so many times. Come on up.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Dan Fitzgerald, and I am first here as a veteran myself. So I graduated the Citadel in 2009. I then became an infantry officer, so I was Army. And I served for 13 years. I finished up at West Point, so I was a leadership instructor at West Point. And so the one thing that I would say is often the veteran, we kind of lean towards this. Hey, veterans, they have all this baggage. They're dealing with all these really tough things. Sometimes there's this feeling of maybe they're a burden on society, and But, there's certainly a whole spectrum. There are some people who serve who certainly come back and they've seen real trauma. They've had real significant loss. They're struggling with things. And then you have all the way through the spectrum of people who are either unfazed or people who come back and they have incredible insights and life experience and all that. So everywhere on the spectrum do you have folks. And what I would say is that, while veterans, they certainly bring something to each business that they provide, the main thing is that we're seeing that we can learn from each other. So it doesn't mean that the veteran has the golden answer, and it doesn't mean that you as a non-veteran can't bring something to a veteran organization, right? And so the main thing is, I've got two sisters who are social workers. My mom's a teacher. My dad was a cop. My other sister, she volunteers at her elementary school. The thing that I don't like is I don't like seeing military service as the only way to serve. And so when people say, hey, thank you for your service, I say, cool, how are you serving? Right? And that could be, even here in your own community, it could just be the way that you treat people. I mean, our service extends far beyond just wearing camouflage and firing a gun. And so don't think that you're not invited to serve, because we can all serve in the way that we do our business, in the way we treat people, in the way we're there for friends and family. Or I'm sure there are students here who are struggling, and maybe just asking them, hey, how you doing? That's service in and of itself. So I'll get off my quick soapbox. So I'm the founder of 40/40 Paddle Club, all right? And so paddle is the fastest growing sport in the world. The way that I would describe it is the way Americans talk about pickleball. Paddle is taking, it is incredible. You talk to anybody who lives outside of the United States and you mention paddle, they've heard of it. And paddle is just coming to the United States. And so 3 years ago, I learned paddle down in South America when I was traveling. And I just fell in love. I came back and I said, where is this in the United States? And honestly, I was talking to so many people, learning so much about this sport. And I was looking around South Carolina and saying, who's doing it here? I was like, man, maybe I could do that. But that wasn't enough. What I needed to know is I needed to see it for myself. ChatGPT, Wikipedia, Google searching, that was all something. But I got in my car and I drove to every single paddle club in driving distance from Miami all the way to New York. I went to Texas, to California, and I would interview customers. And I talked to business owners. All right, I'm nobody just showing up. Hey, can I talk to you about paddle? How'd you learn about this sport? Talking to business owners. Hey, I would love to learn from you. I mean, way outside of my comfort zone. And then what I learned is, hey, there is a real opportunity here. And then I had this very high-paying job, great job and all that. And I took a step away from this job and said, I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to try to do this myself. It has been the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, hands down, and that's Iraq, Afghanistan included. Jack has been a friend and a phenomenal resource to me. So when he talked about having people around you, that has been really phenomenal. But the other thing I would say too is you listen to podcasts after people have made it. I haven't made it. We're not even open yet, right? We're looking to be open this December, right? So every day is like, hey, I've got to hustle today, right? And the reason I came up here today is, one, I look out and I say, hey, all of you might be players, so maybe you play paddle. But the other thing too is there's a phenomenal book called Good to Great. And even if you don't have a role for somebody, you get them on the bus. If you meet great people, you get them on the bus. You bring them along with you. And so when I see a bunch of young people who are, motivated, coming out doing this on their own time, I want to meet you. So I want to be in the way back there. If you guys want to come by and say, hey, I would love to share more with what we're doing. And yeah, thanks for being out here today.
My name is Maggie. I'm with a company called Thomas Mechanical, and just want to start off by saying thank you to those of you for your service, for coming here today. And I think it's really awesome that Clemson University is actually doing something like this. Maggie does so many great things. It's my second event here, and she's always extremely hospitable. So thank you, Maggie. So Thomas Mechanical, you've probably seen us around town. We just redid the Tillman building. We've actually put in all the fire sprinkler systems at your new AMIC research building that's going up. So we do HVAC, mechanical systems, as well as fire sprinkler systems. And we are hiring interns. We are hiring project managers, anybody that's in the construction industry. But I know that this is a more entrepreneurship, I think, feeling is what I'm hearing here. And what's really cool about my company is we were founded by a gentleman named Martin Lowry. You all might have heard or seen his son, Thomas Lowry, who the company is named after because he was your former Clemson Tiger. As was Martin Lowry during his time here at Clemson University. So we're kind of, I guess, grandfathered in that, but Martin set out with a construction degree from Clemson University, and he, graduated. He started working for Train, and after about 5 years working for Train, he decided, I want to do something that actually matters, and so he decided to join his father's mechanical company. Worked there for a few years. He's like, I can do this on my own. Right. And there might be times where, like, you're in that, whether you get a corporate job and you decide one day, you know what, I can do this on my own, and feel empowered that you can do that no matter where you come from, that you can do it on your own. And he did. With a pickup truck and a toolbox, he just went out one day. He said, I'm going to do this. And we have been incorporated now for 21 years. April will be 22 years. We have over 80 employees, and we're still growing. We service the entire upstate of South Carolina into Georgia and North Carolina as well. So we have plenty of opportunity for people. If you guys have any questions about, how to start a business, if you want to get into construction, I'll be in the back as well. Feel free to come talk to me. And also, I will say there are a lot of great resources here in South Carolina. If you're looking, if you need mentors, just look up the Small Business Association for South Carolina, because they have opportunities for you where they'll set you up with a mentor. They'll help you figure out how to get that financing. If you don't have anybody here at Clemson that you can talk to, or if you decide to leave Clemson and go somewhere else in South Carolina, that SBA website is awesome. They'll set you up with somebody. I know this personally because I have a company that is kind of trying to get off the ground called Sweet Harmony. It's an ice cream shop that I've been trying to build, but there's opportunities out there. And also for those that are veterans, I would highly suggest you look up the Upstate Warrior Solution, because they also have mentors that can help you as well if you have any questions, or if you need to get back into society, or if you know somebody that's trying to get back and transition back. The Upstate Warrior Solution can do that for you guys. But thank you for having me.
Hello, my name's Shannon Sports. I work with Jack at Upstate Warrior Solution. First off, I want to thank you for your question. You're the first person I ever heard ask that question. And I've been working in the veteran space for over 5 years. I retired from the military, have a background as a firefighter as well on the civilian side. The best thing that somebody can do for any veteran that's out there is have a conversation with them. The military, when you walk in from day one, you are taught everything about yourself. You learn how to tie your shoes the proper way. Everything is planned out. Your entire life is planned out. So if you serve for 20 years, after this amount of time, you have to go to the school, pass your PT test, pass weigh-in, you're eligible for your next rank. They tell you what jobs you're going to do. You may not want to do them, but they will tell you what jobs you want to do. The problem is when they get out here, there's nobody to give them direction. And that's where the community comes in. And that's the biggest part you guys can play. Have a conversation with them. Share how you make your decisions. Try to educate them, because they can learn so much more from you than you would ever even think about. Most of those people that joined the military were basically children when they went in. I enlisted at the age of 17, was at Fort Benning, Georgia, going through basic training the summer of my junior year of high school. And then I came back and completed my high school year and went back to infantry school. So I was a kid. By the time I retired from the military, and even though I had some breaks in service and everything else, I didn't know what it was like to be a civilian. Everybody that I run into on the employment program have no clue on what it's like. That's where the community comes in. They need to help them and understand and just basically have a conversation. Ask questions. They aren't afraid to tell you. There's nothing that they will not answer. And they want to share. And then they want to learn how to get through the next chapter of their life. So thank you very much for that question. And as far as jobs, and businesses and everything else. I've worked with a program, it's called Precision Anatomy. It's 2 military veterans. One was a medic in the Ranger Regiments of the Army, which is part of the special operations community. And they do medical training on cadavers to provide training for hospitals, firefighters, paramedics, things like that. Because since the global war on terrorism ended, the experienced medical professionals that they have out there is dropping drastically. They're getting out of the military, they're going into private practice, things like that. So they are offering a program to work, to learn what it's like to work on a body and to understand the training and stuff like that. What I want to share with you is they've been doing this for about 2.5 years, Jack. They still are not at a point where they're receiving a regular paycheck. So it is a commitment. It's going to be successful. They have the drive and everything else, but it is a lifelong commitment to be an entrepreneur. And like Jack was sharing, there are some people that love to do the work itself, but they don't like the management part. That's where you've got to connect with other businesses, connect with other entrepreneurs, and learn those skills and find out who can help you achieve your dreams. And only you can decide your own dreams and you can decide your own successes. You can't compare yourself to anybody else. It's what's successful for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. So they will be in the back along with pizza. This is a fantastic opportunity to get to know them better, to listen to more stories, to get the insights from them. So please take some time. They spend their afternoon coming here to share with you. They're all eager to talk to you. So thank you, everybody, for being here. People on Zoom, our wonderful team of interns, and definitely the companies. Thank you so much, Jack. We're honored to have you here. Thank you, everybody.